This podcast is brought to you by the Alien Soda Company, your connection to pop culture and paranormal themed merch. AlienSodaCompany.shop for all things out of this world.
All right, everybody, let's get into something wild here. The unsolved mystery of the Circleville Letters. Buckle up. This one's a rabbit hole. Let's talk about it on this episode of the Paranormal Mind podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Paranormal Mind podcast.
Gets me every time. What's up, everybody?
And you know what? We do the same. We do the same intro every time. Like,
it's okay, though.
When are you not going to be surprised that I say "What's up, everybody"?
Never. It'll be. We'll have 100 episodes in. And I'm still going to be surprised.
It's because you do the same thing on your lives too.
Yeah. What's up, everybody?
At least I'm consistent.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just funny.
All right. Well, let's get into this episode of the podcast. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Real quick before we jump into it, if you're not a Patreon member, become a Patreon member. We are so close to the 100, the goal that we set for ourselves, 100 Patreon members. Once we get there, we're going to do a drawing for an all expense paid trip to come investigate with me and the guys from Searchers. So, okay, forget I said
Wow. So everybody can come see Shane and then these other fucking guys that
The Searchers.
Yeah, the Searchers.
We're like
fine. No, I see what you said.
You said it, not me.
We're the background singers, my guy.
Wow.
I'm glad y'all said it. I
Shane
didn't
Pittman
say it.
and the Temptations. The fuck?
Hey, were the Temptations still successful? You're welcome. Anyway.
All right, Gladys Knight.
All right. So, become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/searchersbelieve. And let's get to 100 so we can do that drawing. All right?
Yeah.
All right. So imagine this, guys.
Do I need
All
to
right,
sign up for
all right,
Patreon so I can hang out with you too?
Let's get on. That would be a good idea. We'd be at 88 Patreon members. All right. So imagine this, all right? You live in Circleville, Ohio, a small town, America. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, people start getting these anonymous letters in the late 70s and early 80s filled with accusations, secrets, threats, and just downright creepy stuff. This wasn't just a one-time thing, though. This was happening regularly, sending the town into a swirl of paranoia and fear. And the craziest part, nobody knows who the hell wrote these letters. The first person to get a letter was Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver. Now, Mary gets this crazy letter accusing her of having an affair with the school superintendent. She denies it, goes to the cops, but the letters keep coming and they're hitting other people in town too.
Did she actually have an affair?
Right.
I don't know that part. All right. And man, it wasn't just the people, local businesses, organizations, you name it. They were all getting hit with these spooky letters. People in the town were changing their phone numbers, going unlisted, doing anything they could to try and avoid being the next target. Now, here's where it gets really creepy. All right. God, y'all laugh at everything I do. All right?
Here's where it gets creepy.
Yeah, here's where it gets really creepy. These letters weren't just accusations. They had inside information. Stuff you'd think only someone close would know.
So that was all true.
A lot of it was. So the investigators are thinking this has got to be someone who's got the inside scoop on everybody's dirt. Local cops spent years trying to crack this case, interviewing people, checking handwriting samples, offering rewards, even resorting to hypnosis, but nada. They couldn't nail down a solid suspect. And then in a wild twist, they arrest a local businessman, Paul Freshour, I guess.
Freshour.
I don't know who these names are so weird. Paul Freshour, whatever, in 1983, saying he's the guy behind the letters. But Paul swears up and down he's being set up. He gets locked up anyway, and here's the kicker. The letters didn't stop. Even while he was in prison, these letters kept showing up. Since then, everybody's got their own pet theory. Was it a group effort? Some crazy marketing stunt gone horribly wrong? Maybe it's someone with a grudge or a mental illness. And of course, you've got people suggesting it was some kind of government conspiracy. But the truth is, no one really knows, and that's what makes it so intriguing. So this just goes to show you never know what's happening behind closed doors, even in the most ordinary of places. The mystery of the Circleville Letters is still out there, a bizarre testament to the power of anonymity.
Don't even try it. Don't even
the power
try it.
And the chaos it can cause. It's unsettling. So remember, next time you open your mailbox, keep your wits about you. I'm just going to talk over the laughing and the talking from now on. So here are some similar stories of mysterious letters. The first one is the Westfield Watcher letters, and this happened in 2014 to a family in Westfield, New Jersey.
They made a whole TV show about it.
Yeah, they began receiving creepy letters from an anonymous sender shortly after purchasing their new home.
It was just Shane.
The writer, who referred to themselves as the Watcher, claimed to have been observing the house for decades. The letters included eerie statements about the family's children, renovations, and other personal details. Despite a substantial police investigation and media coverage, the identity of the Watcher remains unknown. The second story was the Croydon cat killer letters. In the mid-2010s, South London was plagued by a series of animal mutilations, primarily cats, which led to widespread fear and media coverage. In 2018, an anonymous letter was sent to various media outlets claiming responsibility for the attacks and threatening further violence. While the police concluded the attacks were likely the work of foxes, the letter's origin, like the true cause of the mutilations, remains a mystery. And the third story is the Viper letters in Circleville. Interestingly, Circleville, Ohio was subject to another anonymous letter scandal. In 1977, many residents received letters from someone calling themselves the Viper, threatening to use poison gas.
I'm the Viper.
Yeah. Schools and businesses were shut down and the National Guard was called in. While these letters caused a panic, they turned out to be a hoax. A local teenager was caught and admitted to sending the letters as a prank, proving that sometimes the mystery does get solved.
Of course, a teenager would name himself the Viper.
Yeah.
Of course. Let's dive into some wild territory here. Okay. Whenever I was researching this, I was like, okay, what are some possible explanations other than just somebody sending it and you can never find out who it is, right?
Right.
We're talking about apports. Okay. That's right. Apports. It's this crazy idea that objects can just materialize out of thin air. And now you're probably thinking, Shane, have you gone off the deep end? But just stick with me on this one for a minute. And one prime example of this was a Holzer Files episode, the Devil in Texas episode. Hans Holzer actually did a case with this kid, Andy, that unfortunately took his own life because of everything that was going on. Yeah. He was claiming letters were appearing out of thin air. His father also confirmed this. They would take the letters that had weird handwriting on it. A lot of people speculate it's them doing it, but you never know. There's something
really uncomfortable about that.
Right. Things apporting. Have you ever heard of these cases, especially with us, with the cases that we do? Have you ever heard of people saying they set down their keys and they knew they set them down in a certain area and then they disappear and they don't know where they're, and then they appear somewhere else? Yeah, of course it could be maybe a family member playing a trick, but what if they live alone? And what if
I've heard some really bizarre ones.
Faculties are intact and they're like, I know I said it here and it moved.
I worked on a private case here locally one time and they had like a whole like big ass keychain with tons of keys on it that went missing for like 6 months and then they just found it sitting on the kitchen floor, like in the middle of the floor.
That's unreal. That's unreal.
They had already made new copies of all the keys that were on it because it was like janitor size, key ring.
So the apportation, all that stuff that we're talking about. Let's talk about one case in particular. It's kind of cool. So this famous guy from India, I'm not even going to say his name. I should spell it. It's Sathya Sai Baba. Right. So this guy was supposed to be a spiritual leader, and he was known for producing things like rings, necklaces, and holy ash out of nowhere. Just popping these things into existence in front of crowds of people.
So he just made dust.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But of course, there's controversy with skeptics suggesting it was just a skilled magician using sleight of hand. And then there's this case from way back in the day, late 1800s. A a medium named Eusapia Palladino
I bet that's how you say it.
in Italy.
It is now.
During her seances, small objects would appear suddenly materialize out of the blue. But again, people have argued whether it was legit or just another trick. Of course, you always have the skeptics, rightfully so. I think people need to question when things like that happen.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. You can't just say it's a supernatural occurrence.
You
can't
didn't
say
question anything. Could you imagine where the world would be?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So finally, let's head to Brazil with this guy named Carlos Mirabelli. He claimed to have had the ability to produce apports during his mediumship sessions. And we're talking about things like live birds and a bunch of other stuff appearing out of nowhere. It's pretty insane. But look, as intriguing as all these stories are, there's always a big question mark. It's always fun to entertain these possibilities, especially in the paranormal, because you have to entertain that.
Right.
Especially whenever you're having firsthand accounts and eyewitness accounts where they're saying, look, I know I'm not crazy. This appeared out of nowhere, just like the Devil in Texas case. This was a huge deal to the point to where Andy, the boy that was being affected, ended up taking his own life because he couldn't deal with it anymore. So he was dealing with it with his family when he was very young. When in his 20s, he ended up taking his life because of all the turmoil and all the trauma.
Dealing with it and being stuck in it.
So whenever you're taking a look at that stuff, you got to take, of course, there could be mental illness and stuff involved. There could be a lot of people that are misunderstood or they misunderstand the situation. They're misinterpreting the situation. But you always got to entertain these things because, all of the stories that we hear from all of this, it's enough to where you have to take notice. It's not just, I don't think all of it's just a random thing. So circling back to the Circleville Letters, they never found who it was. And of course it could be, most likely it's somebody just sending it.
This is some like nosy Nancy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but the fact that, it was to businesses, to organizations, and people still never found out who it was, that's kind of, this person was very good at hiding.
Somebody's grandma.
Hell, man. That's probably even creepier, to be honest, if it's like a real person there doing all this stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, but that takes a lot to actually stay in the shadows.
Well, I mean, think about it, like somebody who's just so bland that they just kind of blend in. And
but then know all these pertinent details about everybody's lives.
They're always around, but they're never noticeable. I mean, that happens all the time.
It does, but it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. It's like Ricky over there. He's always around.
Our mascot. So that's the Circleville Letters. I want to talk about it because it was just a crazy story. And again, back to the Aportation stuff. Have any of you had anything happen where something maybe appeared out of nowhere you didn't have an explanation for, or something disappeared? Anything like that?
I watched Chris Angel do a lot of cool shit.
Chris Angel is freaking badass, man. He really is. David Blaine is freaky.
That's my thing, is a lot of that. That's what it makes me think of, is just magicians.
Sleight of hand magicians.
Yeah, it's very easy. And because of how, I don't know what the right word is, but because of how not as educated on magic as people were back in those days, sleight of hand was more spooky and people were, nowadays if somebody makes a quarter disappear, you're like, oh yeah, congratulations.
Well, have you ever heard even in the churches and stuff where they say gold appears out of nowhere? Appears from the ceiling and just trickles down.
I've been waiting for it.
And they're like, it's the gold from heaven. It's like,
where?
God, can you drop like a ton of gold on me specifically?
Just a handful. I'm good.
And then you get smashed by a ton of gold and then you're dead.
Yeah.
And you got exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But there's that. There's people that say, oh, my loved one, if you see pennies appear out of nowhere, that's your loved ones checking on you. And
so I went and spent the night in this haunted.
Oh, this is a good story.
Haunted hotel. It's in Savannah, 1790 Inn. And one of the
which is a cool spot, by the way.
One of the things there is that there's a little boy there that leaves pennies everywhere. And of course, I've investigated a million places. So I was just like, okay, this is another story of a million stories I've heard. Anyway, they give you your own like key. Like, it's not a key card. It's a key lock.
An actual key.
It's an actual key to get in and out, because these are this is a really old inn. Man, we were finding pennies everywhere. I was finding pennies inside my shoes. I was finding pennies like on the framework of the doors.
So how many are we talking about here?
I mean, I probably had 20 pennies throughout a single night. We only stayed there a night.
And nobody could have walked. Nobody had
There's
the key.
no way,
nobody
dude,
could have
because
walked
there
in.
was one time I took my shoes off. We took a nap. I woke up to put my shoes back on to leave, and there were pennies in my shoes.
So you don't think anybody snuck in?
There's no way, dude. There's no way. And it's not just me. It's my wife there, too. So
and we know how freaked out she probably was.
So, like, there ain't no way that, somebody would have just walked in and put a penny in my shoe. There's just no way.
Imagine you just start coughing and just pennies start coming out.
When I found them on the door frame, I was like, okay, those could have been there, right? Like, so those could have been there before I got there. But to find them in my shoe after waking up is impossible.
So you said there was like 20 in your shoe, or was there
not stacked up, but through the course of the night, I would find them everywhere, man. I really would.
So what do you think that is? Like, do you think it's messages from the other side? Do you think?
I don't know, dude. Like, when you started talking about this and we started talking about the keys missing thing, that is such a prominent thing in paranormal experiences.
Yeah,
things
it's
going missing
deal.
or things appearing. That maybe there is something like scientific going on with that. That I don't know.
What would be scientific?
I don't
about
know, but it's a weird anomaly. I mean, it's weird that all paranormal experiences, nearly all of them, have this kind of trait, right?
We've talked about this before with the Bermuda Triangle and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Where the time slips, the time warps, where something disappears from one place and appears in a completely different place.
Right.
And there's like a lapse of time where there's time missing. So this could be another thing, but I just don't see the point of just like random pennies appearing in a place. Like, what would be the reason for it?
I don't know, but I wish they would have put us up in that place whenever we filmed 28 Days Haunted, so we could have made a little extra moolah.
I know.
Yeah.
You could have just started asking Thaddeus for quarters.
Hell yeah. Can we up this?
Up the ante there, buddy. But it is weird. It's a weird phenomenon.
Awesome. Yeah. Savannah's awesome anyways. I've been to the 1790 Inn. Haven't had anything happen like that.
I didn't think I was. I mean, I just thought that it was going to be just one of those tourist
So was
stories.
that the first like physical manifestation of like a paranormal experience that you and your wife had?
Oh, no.
But this was something for Mandy that was a big deal, right?
So this particular one was not, she wasn't so uncomfortable about the penny situation. And this was a different time. But one of the first times that we stayed at 1790, because we've stayed up there multiple times, we stayed in what they deemed the haunted room where Sarah took her life and all this stuff. It was in the middle of winter. We had a gas fireplace there. And so it ran nonstop. We didn't turn it off. We don't even have that capability. But we left and went to dinner and then came back and like, we're getting, it's weird, man, because I set up cameras before we left, and maybe 2 minutes after we left, the cameras cut off, all of them.
You said how many were set up?
I had 2 that were set up, but I had
both shut off at the same time.
Yeah, but I also had a K2 meter like propped up in one of the frames as well, and it like right before the camera cuts off, it blips. I mean, it's not like extravagant, but it blips and then it's gone.
Yeah, something happened.
So then we come back and I'm like, ooh, I want to review the footage, and of course there is none. Right. They get cut off. So anyway, I turned them back on, full batteries. We're getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like, I'm going to set the cameras up and we'll let them record through the night. Nope. As soon as I lay down in the bed, cameras cut back off. Turn them back on, full batteries. But the really weird part about that is then the gas fireplace actually went out on its own too, and it had been on all day. So I don't know. I personally think that the penny thing was more validating to me, mainly because they were my shoes.
Yeah,
I know that they're. I know what was where I went, and
you weren't walking around with pennies.
Right. There's just no way that could have happened.
It's insane. If you've never been to Savannah in general, I would recommend going.
Yeah.
1790 Inn is an awesome place.
And then there's like the Sorrel Weed House.
That's where I had my first paranormal experience unintentionally.
If you can afford it, you can go to the Moon River Brewery or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you got to have a lot of money to go there.
Now you do. It used to be.
Well, I've got an inn with that a little bit. We may be able to get there.
Yeah.
I've been there, I think 3 times, but it's haunted for sure.
It's for sure haunted.
It definitely is. All right. Well, that was the Circleville Letters, and we talked about Aportation a little bit. Before we end this episode, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Alien Soda Company. So aliensodacompany.shop is where you can find all kinds of cool stuff for everything out of this world. That is their motto, their logo. They're really awesome. They've got coffee mugs that are really badass.
Shower curtains.
Shower curtains.
Yeah, you name it, they
awesome.
got everything, dude. It's
But
crazy.
it's cool paranormal themed stuff. I think stuff that you guys would really enjoy.
They got a bunch of really cool puzzles that you can buy. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. So aliensodacompany.shop. Go check them out. We really appreciate them. They're
we
they're a
thank
great
them for their
sponsor.
support.
Yep. They allow us to do what we do as well.
We have a discount code, so if you want to buy something,
Yep. So it's code searchers for
10% off.
10% off. And I think that's the lifetime. Anytime you order.
Every time you order, you can use that code.
And you know what, guys? These guys are a growing business, just like us, small fish in a big sea. So go support them.
Yeah, please go support them. They have really great stuff. I mean,
it's cool.
they send us stuff. You know, we kind of keep it as collectible stuff, but I think we need to wear some of it.
Yeah, we'll wear some of it
on
out.
some of these podcasts because it's really cool stuff. I think I'll be wearing some to some of my events that I go to. They got really solid merch, so go check them out. But thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Paranormal Mind Podcast. Until the next episode, searchers out, guys.
See ya.
See ya.